Well, we saw over the Easter holiday weekend a fair amount of severe weather in parts of the Midwest and good rainfall. Looks like the weather pattern is going to stay active again for this week. Let's talk about it. Joining us for a conversation, Eric Snodgrass with Nutrient Ag Solutions for our weekly weather update. And Eric, hope you had a great Easter holiday. And I know for many folks in parts of Nebraska, Iowa, etc., did see some severe weather. I saw, what was it, almost a 2-mile wide tornado in southwest Iowa, some heavy rain in many areas and more. So it was definitely an active holiday weekend for severe weather, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then on top of that, there's quite a bit of rain. I mean, you stretch from, northeastern Texas all the way through Missouri, Illinois, southern central Illinois. We've had a just widespread, 1 to 5 inches of rain. Some places picked up even more than that. And, it's interesting, Jesse, because there's kind of this adage, right? You probably heard this before, but there's this, if it rains on Easter Sunday, it's going to rain the next 7 Sundays. And that to be honest, it's one of those kind of self-fulfilling prophecies, right? I mean, it's we're at a time of year that if you're able to get storm systems to come through, they tend to come on a cadence of 1 every week or so, or maybe sometimes 2 every week. And so we have questions as to whether or not we're going to continue to see this active pattern. But I want to remind you of something. All right. Tremendous Mid-South flooding. Then we just saw flooding from, like I said, Red River Valley of the South through the Missouri Valley, the end of the Missouri Valley by St. Louis. Mm-hmm. You go north of that into Nebraska. Like I just pulled up data this morning from Kearney, Nebraska. They've only had 1.5 inches of moisture since the beginning of the new year. You then look at it and say, like, what about the Dakotas? How's their soil moisture? Well, there's been some moisture up in the Dakotas. I mean, they're even going to get another little clipper this week, but their subsurface soil moisture is still very, very low. And then you think about, like, my home state of Illinois. The northern half has been so dry. The southern half's been just too much rain. Go talk to Matt Bennett, right? Matt will tell you it's been so wet, down where he is. And so it's kind of this interesting just setup where we get into spring and we try to figure out where it's going to go. So I'll tell you this about the near-term pattern. I'm gonna say that it's calmed down a bit, but I want to be careful in what I mean by that. We've ripped off system after system with a lot of severe weather. I have more. There's more strong storms. There's more rain, but we're missing kind of like this incredible setup to have me just tell you that every day for the next 5 days is severe. Mm-hmm. So what I mean by that is I'm looking at more of a pattern that's going to be focused on where are we going to be delivering rains. And a lot of that's going to be coming into the plains. I mean, I see moisture coming into the plains, and that moisture is going to be able to get back farther to the west. And the farther to the west we get it, the more we start to beat back more of these drought concerns we have for 2025. But we have to think about that carefully, and we can talk more about that in a second. So in the near term, we've got wetter weather coming for the central United States. Where's it dry? Mexico, Southwest, Florida. That's where our big subtropical ridges are. And I'll tell you something. We talked a lot last summer and fall about drought problems in Mexico. They're back into that right now in that area. So I'm still uneasy about all of this, despite what spring has done, which, I mean, you look at my yard right now. I mean, I got puddles. I mean, it's just soaking wet around here, but I'm still not, eased in my thought process about where this could take us longer term, but we can talk more about that in a minute.
Well, let's dive into that a little bit, because this is something that I know you and I have been talking about this, not every week, but I'd say every other week or for quite a bit since really the beginning of the year, this drought risk potential for the central part of the country here later this growing season. And it's something that I know you've said this a couple of times, that you really don't like to forecast things like this necessarily. But it's the risks are prevalent in some of the longer term modeling, right, Eric?
So let me tell you why I don't like to do it this way. Okay, so you're looking at a map that's July, August, September from the Climate Prediction Center's update they released last Thursday. And you're like, holy smokes, Missouri, Iowa, Minnesota, the Western Corn Belt, part of the Central Corn Belt, is in this deep shade of dry brown, right? And so you look at that and we're kind of going, okay, first of all, how do you look at this? You look at this like you look at you're looking for patterns, not magnitudes. That's the first thing. Second thing is this. Our brains tend to turn this into extremes. Like Okay, that's 2012. You know what I mean? Or, or it's 1993, right? And we got to be careful doing that. And I add a little sarcasm when I say that, but the reality is we all tend to do it. And so let me put something to this, okay? When I produce my long range forecast, I do look at models, but I also look at analog years, and I'm going to give you the years I'm currently looking at. Ready? 96, 99, 06, 08, 11, 12, 17. And what's crazy about those years is that only 11 and 12 for the Corn Belt were below trend yield years. 3 of those other years were on trend, and 2 of them were above. So it's important to understand that you can have some drought pressure if you stay away from the heat, and you do fine. The combination of the two is lethal to the crop. So what I'm concerned about here as I look out there is that there are still longer term signals that we could be sliding into a summer drought risk problem.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to remind you of something, Jesse, because I got into a little bit of a Twitter discussion about this over the week. It was great dialogue over Twitter. But the reminder was that even in spring of 2012, it stormed and rained throughout the plains. It was a problem where the atmosphere lost its momentum later in July, and we're just worried about that this year. So we talk about it. But man, the title of your show has the word market in it, right? And and I'm just going to tell you something. My advice to anybody would be, do not make a marketing decision on a map like this, or even my inflection in the way that I talk about it right now. And it's just to keep folks away from going to the extremes on something, because you know what the atmosphere can do. It can get into a position where it's like hot, 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 dry, dry, dry. And then just when you need it, it breaks down for a week, and all of a sudden the market loses all of the momentum it gained. And I can't rule any of that out because it is only April 21st. So that was a mouthful, Jesse, but like, it's the point, right? I sit here and look at it and go, all right, yeah, I'm concerned. I think this is going to happen. Scientifically, that's the fun way to talk about it. Because when you talk about it scientifically, you don't necessarily have to focus on the outcomes. But when people look at me as a scientist, they want an outcome. And that's a challenge. So I don't know. That's my thoughts on it today. But by the way, Jesse, we got other things in the near term to think about, like frost, right? We got folks that were trying to get ahead of last week's rain because they're sitting here going, are we going to get cold again? And so if you don't mind, I'll bring that up real quick.
Please do.
So the frost risk over the night, it was cold, a little bit cold in parts of Nebraska, the Dakotas this morning. As I blow this out longer term, I mean, this is a mild forecast all the way into early May. And when you get into early May, you're talking about last frost dates as far north as like Madison or Sioux Falls. I mean, that's climatologically consistent. So what I'm going to tell folks is we still in a wetter pattern in the near term for most of where the folks that listen to you are farming. When a window opens, it's not one of those years where I'm like, hey, Eastern Corn Belt, look out for a May 7 frost. I don't see it. I really don't. So as a result, I think we're going to be trying to just dodge raindrops and get better field conditions and get a crop planted.
Well, good thoughts on all the points you made. As far as don't get caught up in the longer range models, I mean, a lot can change. And then to your point with frost risk and more here, and it almost just feels like, Eric, to wrap this up, that to reiterate your last point, we might have some tight windows and spots, but take advantage when you could take advantage here over the next month to 6 weeks, right?
Yeah. I mean, good case in point. Guy calls me last week north of Omaha. He's like, Eric, I know I got a frost coming this morning. We forecast that for him. He says, but my crop won't be out of the ground. My soil temperatures will be fine. I'm after it now because I want to beat the rain we've been talking about for his area this week. And he goes, what do you think about, the full moon coming up on May 12th? What do you think about, he goes, do we have risk of a frost coming back again? And I said, I don't think so. Go get it. So he did. I said, why do you, this is a little early for you, or he's like, I don't care. I got to get in now because I think that some of the analysis you're doing about summer is there. It's real. And if it hits, I want to be in early, and I want to be able to just take advantage of timing. So I think there's going to be just a lot of anxious growers out there that want to get out, and a weekend full of rain and Easter for some folks just kind of ruined it, but they're going to want to be looking for these windows and go after it fast. And I think it's going to be one of those situations where we should do that.
Well, it's something we're going to continue to track week by week with you. Folks can go to agweather.com, ag-wx.com for more information. Eric Snodgrass, Nutrient Ag Solutions, as always, thank you, sir. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right. See you, Jesse.